He's head of the energy generation and energy markets at the Energy Institute Hrvoje Pozar. Warm welcome to you, and he will give us his view on objectives and crisis-related obstacles ahead for the heat transition in Europe. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. So I'm Drazen Balic, and today I will try to give you a brief overview of the objectives and obstacles for the energy transition. I think that all what I will present here today is more or less already said today, but I will try to present it in some, let's say, structured way. So the entire presentation is divided into four main parts, with the review of the current state, together with the objectives, then followed by the obstacles and possible solutions, and the second part is give an overview of the Croatian perspective together with the conclusions. So as we all know, the final, that is ultimate goal of European Commission is to achieve that Europe is climate neutral continent by 2050. There is a lot of legal documents and acts how to achieve that, and one as the most important is Renewable Energy Directive, as well as the revision of Renewable Energy Directive. And in fact, each member state should increase the yearly share of renewable energy sources in the heating and cooling sector by 2.3 percentage points yearly. This is in correlation with the revision of the current Renewable Energy Directive, so-called RED III, as well as with the REPower EU plan developed last year. So as we all know, the increase, that is the consumption of fossil fuels, was increasing steadily for the last century, but now it's time that this contribution of CO2 emissions should be decreased. And in fact, one of the main achievements of European energy policy is in fact that economic growth is decoupled with the consumption of energy. And in fact, we still have a lot of job to do in order to achieve the goals. Regarding to the energy consumption, in this slide we can see what is the share of heat in final energy consumption on EU level as well as in Croatia. And in fact, we can see that heat is almost half of final energy consumption, and only 20% of it is satisfied with renewable energy sources. And in that sense, the other portion, that is 80%, is in fact potential for additional renewable energy sources and climate neutral technologies. Similarly in Croatia, even though we have a significant portion of biomass in structure of heat energy, but still there is more than a quarter of heat demand satisfied by the fossil fuels. So all of this is in fact potential for decarbonization. If we go into the energy markets, we can see that in fact lately the increase in energy prices on electricity market as well as on the natural gas market in fact caused a really significant fluctuations, and in fact those increase in energy prices are in fact one of the main drivers how to speed up the energy transition. And in fact, these signals from energy markets give us opportunity to switch to the renewable energy sources, to energy storage, and to improve as well energy efficiency. Regarding the challenges in district heating, and heating systems can be divided into two main groups, global and local. Of course, global group of challenges is dedicated to the fuel chain disruptions, climate crisis, as well as on the global agreements on decarbonization. Regarding the local challenges, there is the old or inadequate infrastructure, as well as the changing of patterns in energy demand. Of course, there is a lot of site-specific conditions which in fact should be resolved on the local level. Also, what is important to mention is the Repower EU plan developed last year, which is in fact try to find a way how to accelerate the energy transition and to reduce the dependence on the fossil fuels. And within this plan is also energy savings identified as one of the key points, together with the diversification of energy sources and energy fuels. Of course, there is a need for investment in smart energy solutions, as well as enabling adequate economic, that is financial mechanism to stimulate investment into the renewable energy sources. Another important document regarding the renewable energy, that is to decarbonization objectives, is RED III directive. And in fact, main goals of this directive is to shorten the administrative procedures, because this is one of the main barriers for speeding up the use of renewable energy sources for heating and cooling. Also to foster the distributed generation, that is, that energy is generated at the site of the consumption, increase of the RES consumption in the urban areas, usage of heat pumps and integrated solar power plants on the urban areas, as well as greater use of waste heat together with the energy efficiency. All that should be coupled with the sources of flexibility, such as thermal energy storages, because these type of storages are the cheapest, but also can provide a significant amount of flexibility for the entire energy system. Regarding the decarbonization barriers, the late European Commission published a report on renewable space heating under the revised Renewable Energy Directive, and there is identified a couple of decarbonization barriers. The main important are presented in this slide, such as economic barriers, because renewable energy sources are still more expensive in investment sense, as well as in operational point of view, than conventional fossil fuel-based energy sources. There is a problem of technology maturity, because some of technologies still are not sufficiently developed for wider deployment. Also, market maturity barriers, because for some technologies, market are still not, in fact, the markets don't exist at all, or the technology has a small share into it. And there is impact on electricity system, because all decarbonization technologies rely mainly on electricity, and distribution infrastructure very often is not enough resilient to accommodate all the consumption of that is all of the consumption of electric energy. There is also resource availability, and this is something that is discussed in the previous presentation. So this is, I would say, site-specific, because certain areas don't have opportunity, I don't know, to install geothermal sources or solar power plants, but maybe they have some other resources available. So this is something that should be taken into account. And also suitability of the building stock, because all these decarbonization technologies, in fact, require low temperature heating systems, and this is one of the primary goals, is to increase the energy efficiency of the building stocks. However, if we talk to the solutions to the barriers, then I could say that, in fact, strong regulatory framework is the most effective way how to restrict usage of technologies which are not in line with the decarbonization goals. Also, another important aspect how to overcome economic barriers is adequate economic policy instruments, in the sense of subsidies, preferential laws, energy or carbon pricing, in order to in some way foster usage of renewable energy sources. If we talk about the technology or market barriers, then set of supporting complementary policies should be introduced with R&D support measures, as well as market transformation measures, such as collective procurement programs, capacity building, trainings for installers, capacity building for local administration. And I can say that all these, in fact, bullet points were already addressed with our Replace project, and I think that all of the project partners can be in fact proud that we identified all of them 5 years ago when we prepared the project proposal. And also what is important is adequate heat planning, because energy infrastructure must be enough resilient and robust to accommodate all these new technologies. And here I would like just to put a little bit more about the energy planning, because I think it is very important to achieve decarbonization of energy system. And the main question is what in fact energy planning is, do we need it, and to what extent? And in my point of view, energy planning should be a part of wider economic planning. It should solve specific problems and also find suitable action plans in order to in fact prepare a set of sound information for the decision makers, that is policy makers, because they need to have clear information how to make political decisions. And only with this way it is possible to achieve decarbonization goals in the economic most efficient, socially responsible, environmentally acceptable and cost-sustainable way. Also, why is energy planning very important? Because it is possible to analyze different scenarios, different options with different uncertainties of each of these options. And in fact, with energy planning, it is possible to analyze, I would say, the entire space of possible solutions and impacts of those solutions. However, when we're talking about energy planning, essential part is input data and in fact assumptions. And in that sense, I think that our Replace project is very important, because together with all project partners, we in fact identified all the relevant and needed data for adequate energy planning, together with the needed assumptions. And for the end, a little bit about the Croatian perspective related to the energy transition. Croatian government in the September last year developed measures for the energy vulnerable buyers in order to decrease the possibility of energy poverty, and they introduced subsidies for households using natural gas, as well as on tax on gas, district heating and biomass. And this is in fact, I would say, some kind of short-run measures how to help end users to overcome this energy crisis. Another important part related to the district heating systems in Croatia and entire heating is in fact set of obstacles that we identified when we made some kind of survey with our main district heating operators, and all these obstacles can be grouped into the 5 main groups. So the first and the most important effect is that in fact there is missing the overview of the potentials of renewable heating and cooling solutions on the national, regional and local level. And this is something which is in fact very important to make mapping of RES potential on the national levels, so that it is known what is possible to implement in energy system. Also, current legal framework is not clear enough and should be updated. Also, the public perception of heating and cooling is not very well and should be improved. There is a need for adequate financial mechanisms to foster deployment of renewable energy sources in heating and cooling. And also very important problem is lack of adequate workforce to support the entire energy transition. All of that will be also addressed in Ready for Heat project, where Energy Institute also took part last year. It's already presented by a colleague from Bioenergy Europe. And I believe that Replace project will give a good input to this project as well. And for the end, I think that we can all agree that climate change can impact all technologies in energy system and can affect resilience of the energy system. So there is need to invest in climate resilient energy solutions. Energy planning, energy system assessment, scenario approach is in fact a very powerful tool for policymakers and decision makers in order to make this transition smoother and more faster. Also establishing a working group on national level with all relevant stakeholders so that they can on proactive and prompt way adapt all relevant EU legal documents so that implementation of RES is done quickly and also to enable adequate financial mechanisms. Decarbonization of residential heating sector can be done in fact in 4 main steps. So the building rules should be more stricter and in fact the replacement rate of the old and inefficient systems should be increased. Subsidizing of fossil fuel should be stopped in any way, and also renewable heating should be a standard in any kind of replacement, that is refurbishment of buildings. Public campaigns is also something what we identified as very important, together with the energy efficiency and energy savings measures, and they should be imposed as obligatory wherever it is possible. Also, maybe interesting way how to stimulate efficiency and savings is introduction of tariff system for heating, and retail energy pricing is something which is in fact not the best mechanism for energy crisis on the long run. So clear market signals are of better option and should be introduced whenever it is possible. And of course, harmonization of regulatory framework. So that's in fact was all that I wanted to present you today. I hope I wasn't too long, and that and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you very much. I think we would take one quick question, if there is one, before lunch. Always difficult, but okay, if not, I say thank you for now. And obviously we will have an opportunity to talk to you and network over lunch. We have our break now. For those of you here, please have a look around the posters.